I learned a lot from my parents. I learned how to behave properly, how to do the right thing, be kind. But I learned more from my kids. I learned things like humor, appreciating art, things like that. But I learned probably one of the most important things from my grandson, Miller. I learned how to hug from Miller. I have, so I grew up, my father's a World War II guy. My mom was a 50s mom. And, there weren't a lot of hugs in our family. There was a lot of love, but there weren't a lot of hugs. Hugs would come for, they were kind and everything it was a great growing up, but we didn't hug a lot. I have 4 kids, and those 4 kids have given us, they're all married, and we have 12 grandkids. We do a lot of ass busting, but we don't hug a lot. It's just one of those things. So we're ass busters, not huggers. One day, my youngest daughter, Kylie, calls me up and says, "Hey, Dad, can you watch Porter?" Her oldest, he was about 3 at the time. Says, "Can you come over and watch Porter while I take Miller to the doctor?" And I went, "Mom, I thought you just brought him to the doctor." And she said, "Yeah, Miller had this thing, I guess it's kids' heartburn or something." I go, "I thought you had the right medication for it." She said, "Yeah, but he's still colicky and stuff." So I go, "Absolutely." I worked from home, brought my computer over, I sat with Porter while she went over to the doctor. She wasn't there gone about a half an hour, and she calls me up and says, "Hey, we gotta go to the hospital, they found something, they're like a lump on his stomach, and they want us to go get x-rays." 3 days later, they're in the hospital with Miller, with her husband Josh, and they have this strategy. They come to find out that it's this mass on his liver, and they have to remove a piece of liver and some of the cancer and all this other, and then they have a strategy. There's this plan that they're going to do chemotherapy, and this process is going to take months. So these poor kids had to move out. They had to take a leave of absence from their job and go into the hospital. And actually, they moved in there. They slept right in the hospital with Miller. And again, as I mentioned, I have all these kids. People were coming and going all the time. I remember the first day that I went there right after the operation, and I walked in with my wife, and I saw this scar from here to here. And it had the notch marks on it, and I just had tubes. And it was just a terrible thing to look at. And you couldn't even touch him. And I just remember touching him with my thumb on his forehead. And I looked over at my daughter, and she was stiff upper lip. She looked pretty strong. But when I looked into her eyes, you could just tell the helplessness that's inside. And I remember going over to her and giving her a hug. Not one of the pat on the back hugs that I had grown up with, but the kind of hug that you really squeeze real tight, try to put those broken pieces back together inside. And then I looked over at her husband and Josh, and I went over and I gave him a hug. And he gave me a hug back. So as time went along, we spent a lot of time. My wife and I went there almost every day. These poor kids lived in there. They lived in the hospital. And they went through the process of, my kids would come. There was a lot of visitors. And Miller was going through this process of getting better. But there was a lot of hugging going on. Real, genuine hugs. Hugs are cool. I learned. They do. They remove sadness. They give energy. They're electric. hugs do quite a bit for you. So as time went along, he improved, and I remember I used to pick him up by myself and look at him and go, hey, when you are in high school and he's going to be doing something really good, I'd be looking at him and going, hey, I can't wait until you're big and we can go, we can say, hey, man, you put us through a scare back then. Well, around Halloween, all the process is done. They remove this mask, they go through the chemo. This poor kid, he's looks better, everything's going really well. They say, hey, things are good, take him home. We went home and it was right around Halloween. And as I mentioned, I have these kids, and we celebrate different holidays at different kids' houses. Sometimes my house, sometimes it depends upon the holiday. But Halloween is always celebrated at my daughter Kylie's house. So we're at Kylie's because she lives in this cool neighborhood where there's a lot of close houses together, and we have these 12 grandkids, and we get a lot of loot, you know, they get to go around. So how great was this? We all went to, it was just so heartwarming for me to see the entire family together with Miller, all the kids, and life seemed normal again. Things were good. Things were really good. Well, when they sent Miller home around Halloween, they said, come back in a week or so and we're going to do a follow-up on this. Well, a week or two later, they brought him back and they said, you know, they took some tests and they found that his cancer was spreading. And I remember one night I had to go to a banquet at the AquaTurf. My company had won some award. I had to go and show up. It was a Saturday night. I got a suit on, and I figured I'd stop at the hospital. We went almost every day. And I stopped at the hospital. It was around 6 o'clock. And I visit with them. Big hug again before I leave. And I said, listen, I'll be coming back on my way through. It'd be about midnight or so. They were really lenient at the hospital because we were good customers. We were there all the time. So, remember, I get in my car, and my favorite song is playing. Comfortably Numb. I crank it up real loud, and tears are just coming down my face. And I'm thinking about, I'm never going to have that conversation with them. But one about, hey, you put us through a scare. So I go to the banquet, I come back, and I see those guys at around midnight, and we give each other hugs. And I remember walking out, the nurse even hugged me in the elevator. There were really nice folks there. Early the next morning, Miller left us. Well, we hug a lot today. I want to thank Miller for that. Thank you.